just because they're taking off their clothes after 2 weeks of knowing you doesn't mean you have met the right person. He actually only met one of the two Filipinas, but he sent over 1.5 million pesos.
That's a lot.
To the Philippines.
To the Philippines. Welcome back to another episode of Fly Me to the Philippines, and today another expat diary that we're gonna share.
He met one, he married one.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you believe in a passage that goes, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me?
Well, Michael wanted to offer this story up. Don't feed the bears could be the story of this title. Maybe don't feed the Filipinas.
Don't feed the bears because they could eat you.
So our story is about Michael, the bear man. He runs a wildlife sanctuary outside of Toronto. There's actually been a film made about him, and it's called Bear Man Emo, E-M-O.
Yeah.
It's this produced by a faith-based organization. Michael is currently 72 years old, and we have a little screenshot we can show you when I spent an hour with him video chatting, having him tell me the story. He wrote to us, Chrissy, about two separate Filipinas and his experiences, and he thought it was a cautionary tale, and he wanted to share the story with some of our viewers so they might not make the same mistakes that he made.
It's definitely a very cautionary tale that you should listen.
So, Chrissy, maybe Michael is just a rescue machine. You know, he runs an animal sanctuary, and he's, we have a photo here of him feeding a bear a donut, and they look like they're kissing. He is all about some really amazing wildlife rescue and giving to animals and saving them and releasing them back into the wild. And he was married for 13 years, what he called his paper marriage. He was married to a Western woman. That marriage broke up right around the time of his early to mid-60s, and she was a Canadian woman. He just kind of described a very unsatisfying existence in that marriage. And when it broke up, he had known some Filipino friends. He knew some Filipinos who had immigrated to Canada. And they all said to him, Michael, you need to get yourself a Filipina. And he said...
A Filipina.
A Filipina, yeah, not a bear.
Not a bear.
Yeah, and he said the problem was they were all 10 years old or they were married.
Yeah.
And there were nowhere you could get a Filipina in Canada, so he had to look in the Philippines.
So Michael's characteristic is showing that he's very generous and very helpful to animals.
Right. And
animals,
yes,
right?
And he runs this wildlife sanctuary, and, the animals depend on him. He's not able to just get on an airplane and fly off to the Philippines. He can only get away in the winter months, the severe winter months. I guess in Canada, that's a longer stretch of time. But if he can find somebody to care for these animals, then he's able to get away. So he went and he got on Christian Filipina. The first week he was on, he had to block 21 Filipinas and 7 ladyboys.
So I heard he blocked those Filipinas who can't do video chat, just audio call.
Right. There's this famous story. I read this news article from China like 3 or 4 years ago. There was a vlogger in mainland China. She was really popular, and she did like a talk show like we're doing in a way. Yeah. And she was really attractive woman. She had like 600,000 followers, and she was making big money. She was banking like $500,000 a year with all her sponsorships. And one day, her laptop computer went snafu.
And?
She was this old woman, kind of haggard looking and not pretty and not shapely. And she was using AI to make herself look super attractive and super pretty. She had all these filters and everything.
How to use it?
Yeah, like you want a coffee. And it made front page news in China. If anybody remembers this story, go ahead and write in. But yeah, she got busted and lost all of her business. And it was all a fraud. And today they have these AI apps where sometimes these organized crime call centers, their answer to why they can't video chat is, well, I could try. And then for 30 seconds, and one of my clients sent me a clip, a doctor, and it showed a man talking and the voice coming out of a woman's mouth on the other screen. and they can only get it for about 30 seconds, and then they claim they have technical problems. But anyway, let's get back to the bear man, Michael.
Yeah. Michael is a very generous man. Actually, being generous is not bad at all, but too much generous could be harmful to ourselves.
You've heard it here, you've heard it everywhere. Don't send money to people you haven't met. Okay. Now, eventually he did meet and marry one of the women, and we're going to tell you about that. So stay tuned. So he sent money to not one woman, but two, and serious money. So let's talk about this. So he went on Christian Filipina, and when we were interviewing him, it was his last day on Christian Filipina, and he could see how many women he had sent a like to or written to, or they had liked or winked or whatever it is on Christian. It was 3,200 different interactions over the years. He watches YouTube, he gets interested, he goes on Christian Filipina, and he meets 4 women. So he's
4 candidates.
Yeah, like the job interview. He meets 4 women.
Yes.
And his plan is, to keep them all 4 balls in the air until he can figure out who's number 1. But he actually zeroes in on a woman from southern Mindanao, an area called South Cotabato, the Lake Cebu area, and he arranges to meet her in Cebu City. And she flies in to meet him. He makes the trip. They've been chatting for 6 months. And during that 6 months, he proposes marriage.
So there's a lot of things that happened in 6 months of being long distance relationship.
Yeah, he starts sending her money.
Money, money, money.
Yeah. So even though he's still not 100% sure and he's still chatting these other 3 girls, he starts sending her money, but they're getting really serious. He's fallen in love with this girl and he proposes marriage, and that's the plan. When he arrives 6 months after being online initially, he's going to marry her, and they're going to have a tribal marriage. Now, her father is married to 2 women, and there's 9 children. And he says in this tribe, he said they weren't Muslim. He said the area where she lived was right on the boundary where the Muslim self-governing population is. And he had nothing but really positive things to say about all the Muslim people that he met when he came to visit. But they were sort of a tribal situation where they allowed multiple marriages, is what he said.
Yes, I heard some of the tribes here in the Philippines that allows multiple marriages. And then
his most important criteria when looking to meet a woman was he didn't want any more children. And, that caused him, that's why that number was so high, 3,000. He was like, hey, I don't want any more children. And, he really asked the women to declare. And this particular woman from South Cotabato, southern Mindanao, claimed that she had been kind of sexually abused by one of her college professors, and she'd had a couple of boyfriends, but that she was not able to have children, that she had some physical impairment that prevented her from having children. And that kind of was what he was looking for. I don't know why it was so critical to him.
So for him, she's the match for him.
She was the match, and that's why he touched so many women on the dating site, he said. And, that was his deal breaker thing. If the woman was going to change her mind and want to have children, that was going to be
the deal breaker.
So she physically told him she couldn't. She was 25 years old, 40-year age gap. And he starts sending her money, an allowance, and 3 months before they're now chatting for 3 months. He's in love. They're talking about getting married when he arrives, and it's now like Christmas time, and he can't get there. It should be the time he can get there, but he has trouble finding someone to watch the animals, and she wants to start a bakery. The family and her are all wanting to operate and own a bakery. So he sends 500,000 pesos, which back then, 3-4 years ago, was closer to 10,000 US dollars. Today, it's probably more like 8,000 US dollars or something like that. He sends 500,000 pesos, and they get to work making a bakery. And I'm sure, he's video chatting. And so anyway, 3 months later, and he buys a very intricate, like native North American design with her birthstone necklace. Very beautiful with her birthstone. And he ships that to the Philippines as an engagement necklace. And when he arrives, he comes in March of 2019, a year before the shutdown. And she meets him in Cebu City with her cousin. Now, I know what you're thinking.
A female cousin.
Male cousin.
Male cousin.
Oh,
okay.
So the male cousin is the same age as her. He works in Cebu City. He's at the airport to meet him. But he doesn't stay in the hotel room, and the girl's quite affectionate, and there's no trouble in the bedroom.
Well, he could be a cousin.
He could be a cousin, and he comes and goes over the 2-day weekend. He's not too much of a problem, but he is a little persistent about coming around for a free meal and things like that.
Watch out for cousins.
Watch out for the cousins. So after 2 days, they fly to South Cotabato from Cebu, and he says he's Canadian, and he's got white pasty skin at this time of Christmas, or early in the year, actually, in March. And he made the mistake of having his arm out the window.
March is like a very hot season in the Philippines.
It's the hottest time of year. April and May. March, yeah. So he had made the mistake of sticking his arm out the bus and then the taxi or the car, and he got like second-degree burns on his arm. He was just not prepared. He didn't use sunscreen. Anyway, he shows up. He meets the family. He's scared to death about meeting the father because there's a 40-year age gap. What do you think?
But it turned out to be?
No problem. They embraced him. The father told him he's just, so thankful that he's here and he's, going to marry his daughter.
Most families, they're very supportive of what their daughter's selection.
Very, very supportive. So that all went really well. And then he goes to see the bakery, and sure enough, the bakery's up and running. It's in business. They're making bread.
That's good.
They have customers. It's actually doing pretty well. But he says that it's got a dirt floor. The lighting is no good.
Lack of sanitation.
Yeah, there were problems that were totally unacceptable to him. So he spends another 500,000 pesos.
Another 500,000
to put a cement floor in the bakery and buy lighting and do other repairs and spruce up the bakery to make it, kind of more first world.
And at the moment, they're not married yet.
Well, they're on the verge of getting married. Yeah. Okay. So the wedding is the second week of he's only here for 3 weeks. Okay. And he's already spent 1 million pesos.
Because 500,000 pesos before
arriving, he 500,000 pesos, a very expensive necklace with a birthstone, allowance, transportation to the Philippines, 2 days in Cebu City, fly to South Cotabato, and now he's staying nearby the family in the province kind of an area. It's a tribal kind of government, and he is now putting another 500,000 into the bakery. And but the bakery's up, and family members are running the bakery and things like that. And now she works in a native tribal weaving and fabric. She's a model, so they make native fabrics like the one you dressed in Baguio. And she's an attractive woman, and she models these native fabrics. That's what she does for her little bit of work. And the family kind of runs the bakery. The second week, he's there. They get married, and he purchased a ring with her birthstone for the engagement ring. He brings that from Canada. He didn't tell me what he paid for that, but it sounded like it was a significant investment.
With a birthstone?
Yeah, with a birthstone.
By the way, my birthstone is diamond.
Is there such a thing?
Yes, of course.
Really?
I'm April. My birthstone is diamond.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
Just my luck. So they get married in a tribal ceremony. As part of the tribal wedding, he had to come up with a dowry. And it was 100,000 peso dowry, and he purchased a water filtration plant to be built next to the bakery, so that was a water filtration business. But it required a dowry. In addition to the necklace and the rings, he had to provide a dowry. Everything's going great. They're all getting along great. He's investing money and giving rings, and he says he's just working. He just throws himself in. He's just doing physical work, and he sees things that were welded poorly, and he has to redo them, and some of the construction was not good, and he's working on it. And so that takes him right up to the end of his 3rd week. And he's got to get back to the bears and the eagles and the hawks and the other animals at the animal sanctuary. And he leaves his new wife in the Philippines. And his plan is to do immigration paperwork and bring her to Canada. He heads back to Canada, and he's now in a long-distance relationship. He's put a lot of money in the bakery, so he's only sending 3,000 pesos a month now for the allowance.
The allowance, but excluding those other other needs, like
just a 3,000 peso allowance. That's what she's getting. But he's putting money into the immigration visa, and so they built
emergencies.
Yeah, an emergency, and that's what he said. There's always something broken, always some repair. It's never $3,000 pesos a month. There's always a request for more money, okay? And meanwhile, he learns that they're building a resort right next to the family home and right next to the weaving operation.
Built by someone else.
That's someone else, yeah, not the family. But there's a commercial resort being built to kind of tie into the native weaving and the native fabrics. And he says, you should go over there and get a job. Then I won't have to send 3,000 pesos every month, and you'll be able to pay these bills that keep popping up. And she's like, nah, she's not interested. And that kind of like disappoints him, that she has no interest in getting a job, and they're giving away jobs next door. So this goes on for a year. So he gets locked out. He didn't get back before they locked down. So a whole year went by, from March to March. He didn't get back. But he's sending money, he's working on immigration, and then the lockdown. And the Philippines had maybe the longest lockdown of any country. It's like 2.5 years,
2.5 years.
It opened up October of 2022, I believe. Or was it early?
2022.
Somewhere in 2020. Maybe it was early summer, late spring of 2022. Now he's been gone for over 3 years. And it's now like summertime. He can't go. It's the wrong time of year. He can't leave the sanctuary in summertime. It's almost like 4 years, and now she says to him, I want to build a house. I need 250,000 pesos. It's going to be a 5-bedroom house. My family's going to live in the house. We're going to get to use 1 bedroom. And he's like, no, not doing it. I'm spending close to 5,000 Canadian dollars on this immigration attorney. No. And she gets pissed off.
She gets pissed off of not giving what she wants.
She didn't like it. And then she says she wants to go to Manila for a cultural, trade fair. And it's going to cost 5,000 extra pesos. And she also wants to visit Oman, which makes no sense to him. Why would you want to go to Oman? Well, some OFW that she knows is there. And she wants money to go to Oman. She wants money for $250,000 for the 5-bedroom house. And he's like, no. And also at this time, he's noticing that she's on WhatsApp or she's on Messenger. He can kind of see that she's online, but not with him.
Is that her way of pissing him off or not granting her want?
And I don't know. You're Filipino. What do you think?
I don't think so.
So she sees it, and he starts to challenge her. And, the relationship gets a little testy because he's like, well, who are you talking to? I see you on Messenger. I see you on WhatsApp. And now when she had shown a side of her personality early on, I forgot to mention this, when he showed up in Cebu City, he told her that he had been talking to the other 3 girls. Even after he sent the bakery money, he told her, I had 3 other girls that I was talking to. And she went nuts. She went full Tompo, and she put him in the doghouse, the ice box, for 24 hours. And she had that real jealous.
Why did he tell her?
I don't know. He told the other women too. They went nuts on him too. Everybody went nuts on him.
Well,
so that didn't work out.
I think it's the same as you guys. If the woman will tell you, hey, I'm talking to 4 guys and you're one of them, I don't think you will.
You were the run. He told them you're the runner-up, and they all went nuts.
And you're the first runner-up.
Yeah, they didn't like it. So she had a little bit of temper that could show up, and so he challenged her, and she didn't really like it. And now the relationship, there's like static on the line. He's not giving her the 250,000 pesos for the house. There's static on the line, and their communication starts to get a little sparse. And she's kind of ghosting him a little bit here and there. And all of a sudden, one day, he gets an invitation to a chat room.
A group chat.
A group chat and we actually have the invitation. He saved it and sent it to us. She invites him to a group chat with another man, another Western man, another European man. And it turns out she's been chatting for a couple of months with a European man, and she's engaged.
No, that really confused me.
Yeah, I know. It's really confusing.
What on earth got into her to invite the current husband in a group chat with your other man, with your other fiancé?
Right. So that's her way of telling him that I'm engaged. I'm inviting you in the group chat. Feel free to talk to the European man. He speaks English. And he's like, his mind is blown, and it doesn't go well. And 6 weeks later, now, mind you, it was a tribal wedding, and it did not get registered with
So
TSA.
they didn't register it.
His
Actually,
plan-
the tribal marriage, you can
register.
Yeah, you can register it, and to make it valid.
Why, you're so tall. Did I shrink? What happened?
Yeah, you shrank.
I shrank again. My chair keeps going down. It never got registered. His plan was to register the marriage in Canada, but he never got around to doing it. Anyway, 6 weeks later, she sends him another chat room invitation.
Another one.
And she announces that they went to the mayor's office. Her and the Western man, I think he was from maybe Norway, came to... and it actually looked a little similar. He came to South Cotabato. He married her at the mayor's office in a civil judicial wedding.
A real marriage.
A real marriage. And she sent him another chat room invitation, and that was her way of telling him she married another man. And we're not done with this story. We have another woman and more money to talk about coming up, because he wants you to know that he made some mistakes.
Not some, a lot of mistakes.
A lot.
That's a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. And so he only met the woman for 3 weeks. He was with her for 3 weeks. He married her on the second week. 4 years.
Of LDR.
Yeah, well, actually 3 years of LDR.
3 years
the meeting.
of LDR.
Yeah, 6 months before and like 3.5 years after. The lockdown had a lot to do with it. Anyway, so he's like, oh, screw this. I'm back on Christian Filipina. So he goes back on Christian Filipina and he starts searching. And
so he did not really make a big deal. Like, how about those stuff that I gave you?
Well,
everything?
He didn't speak to it. Who knows? I'm not sure. So he's back on Christian Filipina. And again, I want a woman who doesn't want to have children. That's his number one frame. I need a woman. He really was looking for 25 to 35. A woman who doesn't have or want to have children.
I'm going to give you money, but I'm not going to give you a child.
Right. And he meets a 31-year-old NBSB.
Now I start to believe that the BS in between and NB.
So it's NBS.
NBS.
So when you meet an NBSB, you should call BS. Yeah, right?
Well, maybe in 100 women.
Maybe one.
That says NBSB, right. There's one.
So she's never been married, never had a boyfriend, from a very small, isolated island in the Visayas. Mm-hmm. And there was a tropical storm that had come through and just completely wiped out this little island.
I'm going to put here the picture of the place.
And I'm not 100% sure if it was Odette, because I'm not sure about the timeline, but he was able to Google Earth the island she was from and could see the devastation. And she lost everything. She didn't even have any clothing. And so here he comes on his white horse, and he starts sending money.
Prince Charming.
And I have to check my notes, actually.
Prince Charming with a white horse, and not with a sword, but with the cash.
Yeah, with the cash. And while he's chatting with her on the island, this young man perpetrates inappropriate intrusion and to see the woman naked. And she feels threatened, and she flees this devastated island to go to Surigao, which is a big touristy kind of surfing capital of the Philippines.
Is she a storyteller or a story maker?
Well, he was sending an allowance. He was sending clothing. She had no clothing to wear. Never met. But she said she didn't want to have children. She swore she didn't want to have children.
An NBSB that doesn't want to have children?
Never heard such a thing, yeah.
Maybe.
She fled. She went to Surigao.
After giving her allowances and the clothing and everything, essentials, as a victim of floods and typhoon, she went to Surigao.
There's a lot of typhoons hit Surigao, actually. So maybe the island wasn't far from Surigao.
She went to Surigao, and her reason to go there is what?
To flee this man who is sexually harassing her. Mm-hmm. And there was nothing there on the island. Okay, so she flees, and she meets a old Filipino woman who kind of takes her in and gives her shelter and befriends her. And the woman says, hey, there's an abandoned sari store on the road. It's all broken down. It used to be part of the family. And if you want it, you know, if you have a Western boyfriend and he'll give you some money to get it back up in operation, you can have it. It's not worth anything to me. And so she calls Michael and says, hey, I need some money. And so he sends 5,000 Canadian dollars.
How much is that in Philippines?
Somebody I have to look it up. I think it's in Philippine Pesos, it's probably around 200,000, 160,000 Philippine Pesos. The current, you have to go back a few years and see what the currency rate was back then. But usually nowadays, I think, anyway, about 70% of the value of a dollar probably. So, he sends her the 5,000 Canadian dollars. She opens up the sari store, and then he puts her on a 5,000 peso a month allowance.
Now it's getting larger. The amount of money that he's supporting.
And he's never met her.
Never
met her. It's sort of like the other guy bought the sari store too.
It's the same story of the first Filipina that he met. Like he kept sending her money for the bakery and everything already before meeting her in person.
At least he met her, he married her. But this one he never met. And she's needing, she's got broken cell phones and she's got, refrigerator repairs. There's always more inventory needed. So she's always needing money.
I think I want to fill the sari store.
Yeah.
She's constantly needing money. He doesn't find it as a red flag.
He's smitten with the girl. And but then the same thing starts to happen. He starts to see her online. He sees her on WhatsApp, he sees her on Messenger, and not talking to him. And their communication's getting a little thinner. And he says to her, what's going on? And she says, nothing. You're just being, obsessive and paranoid, and knock it off. And okay. And then she says she wants to go to a church retreat, and she needs 10,000 pesos. To go, the people from the island, like there's some religious group that was very helpful to the people on the island, and now there's like an annual retreat, and she needs to go to show her thanks and her commitment to the church, and she needs 10,000 pesos to go.
In some Filipinas, it's there's an event really like that, and it could cost like more than 10,000 pesos if you're gonna go to this annual fellowship and this and that. It could be true, but we'll see what happens next.
So meanwhile, he can't get to the Philippines. It's the wrong time of year. He can't find someone to watch the animals. He hasn't even met the girl yet. He refuses to give her the money for the fellowship, and she ghosts him.
So she went.
So she ghosts him for 3 weeks. He finally gets a message that says, pray for me. I need money. Let me just double check that. Mercy. Pray for me. I need mercy.
Why?
I don't know.
What happened to her?
She was gone for 3 weeks. He finally gets back. So he gets a message, pray for me. I need mercy. And he finally gets back in touch with her. And she admits that she wants children. And she's been chatting other foreign men. And
maybe what she meant to say is she needs forgiveness, not mercy.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And there we go again. Now he's out all this money. He's never met this Filipina. And this just ended a few weeks ago. And he told me that he had just opened up an account on Filipina Cupid just a few days before we spoke. And he's received several hundred incoming messages. And I told him, beware, because it's all going to be the people looking for easy pickings. Today, he's 72 years old. And he's not given up, but he wants everyone to know about his story. And he wants everybody to, beware and be cautious. And, I said to him, what did you learn? What mistakes did you feel like you really made? And he said, I never asked for documentation. I never asked for a passport. I never asked for a college graduation document. I never actually asked for anything, any proof.
And additional to that, if he didn't realize this mistake is not meeting the person before sending money.
Right?
Yeah. Because I don't know. It's just so weird because at the last moment when she asked for 10,000 pesos, which is very small compared to the 250,000 pesos that he gave, and he refused, and the girl got to ghost him because of that little amount that he refused to give. It's like really weird.
Just because you're video chatting doesn't mean that you should be opening up your checkbook.
And not just because she provided a lot of documents that can prove that she's single and she's real, still not an assurance that she will be faithful to you and will not talk to other men either.
It's an environment which has excess. There is a large number of young, beautiful Filipinas who would be very interested in your dad body. Do not jump at the first person who knocks on your door and doesn't meet your frame. Just because they're taking off their clothes after 2 weeks of knowing you doesn't mean you have met the right person. Anything positive that you can add, we'd like to hear about it. So it's how to get from scarcity to abundance. That's really the challenge. Navigating that online platform is challenging, but sending money is just pretty much always a bad move.
Yeah. I think if you're really into dating Filipinas and you think that finding online it's like a little bit struggle, there's a passage that goes that do not wait for the apple to fall.
Yeah.
There will be apples that will fall, but probably they're rotten apples. You have to go climb up the tree and select the apples, right?
From the words of wisdom from my Filipino.
So from the story of Michael's, I know that he made a lot of mistakes, not just some.
But he's not quitting.
Yes, but for you guys that are listening right now, we didn't mention those mistakes. Maybe you can, see those mistakes that he did and you think it's not right to do when dating online and even dating in person. So comment down below what's your thought about it.
And if you want the advantage of having like an older brother and his fiancée to be helpful or consult with you, write us at flymetothephilippines@gmail.com. And Chrissy, if they have a Filipina experience and story, what should they do?
Write us and maybe we will be featuring your story in the future. It could be a good story or a bad story. If it's very interesting and you think that the viewers will see a lot of moral lessons from that story, write us.
Till next time.
From Fly Me to the Philippines, see you on our next video.
Zumba.